By hook or by needles we'll craft away, stitch by stitch we'll brighten the day, knitting and crocheting just for fun.
Hi, take 3. As the Germans would do, take 3. Maggie's there today, enjoying the view out the window. She might see a bird or two. My name is Sam. Got distracted there. And this is By Hook or By Needles. And today I'd like to talk to you about losing your crojo. Now, what is crojo? Crojo is losing, I guess, the inspiration, desire, the love of, the will to, the desire or whatever to crochet. Now, I'm going to use the term crojo throughout this whole video, but it is not, the advice or the tips I'm going to give are not specific to just crochet. You can use them for knitting, you can use them for anything that you do as a craft that you love and enjoy. It's just, crojo is a term that is used a lot, and I can't think of a knit one. Knitjo? Nojo? I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to call it crojo. Just interchange that with knitting or whatever it is that you are having trouble revitalizing. So let's get started. What's the matter, little Maggie? Oh, I think she can hear things. Okay, I'll be back. So, you've lost your crojo. Why? Why have you lost it? I think trying to analyze why probably is going to help you get it back. Now, there are lots of reasons why we suddenly stop doing something we enjoy, and I cannot possibly list all of them here. So I'm going to put them under large umbrellas, which will encompass all of these sorts of topics. But just remember that it can be anything or it can be nothing. So I may throw out a few ideas here of what it could be, and you'll be sitting there going, nope, that's not why. Nope, that's not why. And that's perfectly okay. That doesn't mean you're not normal, or that something else is going on. It just means that you either haven't been able to work out what it is that's stopping you, or maybe it's just nothing. Maybe it's just one of those, I can't be bothered. I mean, those days happen. So let's look at the reasons that we can probably isolate and know. Let's look at the physical reasons. Okay, physical reasons. Pain. Pain comes to my mind first because I have a lot of pain constantly, and and I deal with it medically, and most of the time I just deal with it and push through and do what I want to do. I try not to, I've learned over the years not to let it stop me from doing what I love. But I understand, sometimes, and it does happen with me, the level gets so high, you have to stop, So pain is an issue. It can be because of, arthritis in your hands, or it might be you've just got a toothache, and you're like, oh, and it's just distracting you so badly that it's not letting you want to enjoy anything, especially a craft. So other physical things, you're just unwell. You're coming down with a cold, getting over a cold, got the flu, you've got the dreaded COVID, you've got the tummy troubles, you've got a migraine. Now, I don't recommend anybody who has a migraine actually crocheting or knitting at all. Personally, I think if you're crocheting or knitting, you've got an overhead light, you're doing close work, it's not going to help. Even if you've medicated, it's not going to help. You've just got to stop. Okay? You got to stop. and then you've got to revisit later. That's just me personally. I mean, obviously, if you do push through, that's your choice. What other? Well, we got okay. So we got physical, we got mental or emotional. Probably is what I would be better one to say. So emotionally, what's preventing you? You know, you could just be tired. You could be stressed from overwork. You could be grieving from having lost a loved one or a pet or a job. I mean, we grieve when we lose a job. We grieve if we, go to try and buy a house and we don't get it. There is grief in that. There's grief in all these little things. Um, so accept that there is grief there, and that will interfere with your joy and with your wanting to do things that bring you joy, because it's all a part of being depressed for a little while after you've had a loss of any kind. So if you've been able to identify specifically what it is, then ask yourself, can I change it? Okay, so there's a lot of things you can't change, let's face it. You cannot change, if you've got a severe migraine, even if you've taken your medication, you cannot change the fact that you've got that migraine. So let it play its course. Don't worry about, having lost a crojo. It's going to come back when the migraine's probably gone, more than likely. If you've lost your crojo because you are grieving, uh, give yourself time to grieve. Don't worry or stress about it. I mean, not you worry and stress about the loss. I mean, don't worry or stress about not being able to crochet or knit. It's a part of the grieving process. You don't want to do things that you love. Other people throw themselves into things they love. You hear people saying, I throw myself into my work to get over my grief or whatever. Some people are like that. You might just be exhausted. Can you do anything about being exhausted? Sure, you can go to sleep. If you're in pain, you can take your medication. If you've got a cold, you can take antihistamines or whatever it is you need to take. And many of these things will pass, and the feeling of losing a crojo will pass when the issue has resolved itself. And that's quite normal. But then there is the times where we just cannot pick up the hook and we cannot identify why. Okay, what do we do then? We treat it just like we would if we had a cold or a migraine or a headache or something else. We just stop. And I don't mean we just stop crocheting or knitting. We stop thinking about crochet and knitting. Give yourself a break. It could just be that your mind is so ticking over all the time about what project you want to do or what project you don't want to do, or, oh my goodness, look how many whips I've got, or what. It could be any multitude of things, and just stop. Just stop altogether, put it all away, or just put it out of sight, out of mind type of thing, and then do something that you don't ordinarily do. Change your routine. Go and meet a friend for lunch or a coffee. If you don't get out of the house like me, then get someone to come in and have a coffee with you or have lunch with you. Go shopping online, but don't actually buy anything. It's not always a good idea to buy when you're depressed or sad or down about things. But, sometimes you can fill your cart and then you can just leave your cart. And that's not a bad idea. You can shop virtually without actually spending money. Have a look around, do something that you don't ordinarily do. Go see a movie or out for dinner or hug a tree. go out into the garden, take your shoes and socks off and walk in the grass, as they say. You know, I've heard that quite a bit. Ground yourself, walk in the grass, hug a tree, and just do something you don't ordinarily do, and try and let it pass. Just stop. Okay, so refresh, revitalize, or refresh your surroundings. Go to your patterns. If you've got a to-do list, scrap it, start another one. Go through your patterns, alphabetize them if you have to, or divide them into categories, which is what I usually do. I have my knitting and my crochet, and then I have my blankets in both, and then I have socks and jumpers, and that sort of thing. Categorize them, divide them up, re-look at them, as you're sorting them, and reminding yourself, oh yeah, I've got that pattern, oh, I really love that pattern, and just sort your patterns out. Rewrite a new to-do list. Sort your yarn. I don't know how you sort it. You'll probably do it very differently. I basically separate my yarn by fabric, by content. So I have all my wools in one area, all my acrylics in another area, and then I divide the plies, and that's pretty much as far as I go. But I usually also keep all of my scraps completely separate to all of my full skeins. So go through your scraps, wind them all up if you've got a winder. If you haven't got a winder and it's not arthritic pain in your hands that is stopping you from crochet, you might want to wind by hand. It's entirely up to you whether you decide to wind the balls into cakes or balls by hand or whatever it is. But just sort of organize your surroundings. It's amazing how much, just sort of, clearing, it's like decluttering, but not actually getting rid of anything. It's just resorting everything, and it's making, a new home for everything. I've got a little toolbox, one of those metal toolboxes with 3 drawers, and I put everything in there, and I've got some other things, and every so often I just go through all of my items, all of my patterns. I separate them. I make sure that they're still in the right categories, because sometimes they get mixed up, and I just make sure that everything's organized so I can find everything. And to stop me from not finding everything, I often find I'm labeling stuff. Just, you don't even need one of those special label machines. You just need a bit of sticky tape and a Sharpie, and you can just label anything. So you can look at a glance, oh yeah, okay, that's got that in it. And so you can find things that you couldn't normally find. Also reminds you of what you've got. And that often might sometimes spark inspiration. You go, oh, I forgot I had that yarn or that pattern. I really wanted to do that, and that sort of thing. So just refresh your surroundings, refresh your items, and get sorted again. Okay, relax and play. Now, what do I mean by relax and play? Well, it's just more of, once again, stepping back. At this stage, we're just stepping back from actually doing the craft, and we're looking more at what's associated with the craft that we can do, that so that we're still doing something, but it's not actually crafting. It's associated with it. Because often we think, well, I don't feel like crocheting, but I want to do something. I want to feel like I'm spending my spare time usefully. So there's a little game, and I'm going to try and share my screen with you so that I can show you how it works. And it's called Ravelry Roulette. Okay, let me have a look. Share screen. Share that. Share. And let's maximize. Okay, I'm going to put a link down in the box below, in the description box, about what this is. You can't see it very clearly, but it says spin that wheel. Okay, now this will give you patterns of any type from Ravelry. So if we spin the wheel, I'm just going to click the wheel. Okay, click the wheel, and Button Up Shirt by Ivana Lamptey. Review on Ravelry. So there's a male shirt. It looks to be crocheted. Not a bad shirt. Now this, it doesn't mean you have to add these things to your favorites list. It doesn't mean you even will like them. But what it's doing is, it's showing you stuff that perhaps you have not seen before and might enjoy actually doing. And you might think, I actually quite like that shirt, actually. And I would be keen to actually give that one a go. But if not, you go down again to where it says spin again, and you just spin again. And this is a Twit Through Owl Overlay Mosaic Blanket by Kate Jarrett's. Okay, and it's a mosaic blanket of an owl. Yeah, that's quite cute. Okay, let's see what else we get. Let's see if we get something knitted. It's really gonna, there we go. Okay, this looks to be knitted, yes. Twisted Band Hat by Gail Rowan. And so it looks a bit like, it's a hat, so it looks a bit like a turban almost. Not bad. It's got cables on it. It's knitted and it's twisted. I quite like that. Yep, that's nice too. So, and you can just visit them. You can just click this link where it says visit on Ravelry, and it will take you to the product so you can have a look at it and you can decide whether it's something you want to make or not. And if you don't want to make, then you just spin again. But you can go and have a look. You can see how many meters or yards you're going to need, what sort of yarn, thickness, whether it's a crochet hook or needles or whatever. So that's a good little game to play. If you don't want to download the app, you can use your phone to pick randomly. So you can go to Ravelry, you can select, okay, I want to look at only crochet. So you tick the crochet box and only crochet patterns come up. And then you can ask, and it might tell you that there's, 10,000 pages of crochet patterns. So you would say to your phone, give me a random number between 1 and 10,000. And then you would go to that page. And I think the page has, say it has 28. I'm just guessing, I can't remember. Say it has 28 patterns on that page. Then you might ask your phone to give you a number between 1 and 28. It gives you a number. And then you look at that pattern and you think, okay, do I like it? Do I not like it? Why do I like it? Why don't I like it? It's just another way you can play without the app. And you can actually then specify what you want. You can say, I want crochet, I want blankets, or I want crochet, I want shawls. You don't have to, it's not like a free-for-all. Okay, you can actually choose what you want. Okay, review. So get out your whips, your unfinished objects, and work out what you're going to do with them. Very often, for me, and it may be the same for you, I often lose my crojo, whatever you want to call it, because I've lost interest in everything that I'm making. And I'm not happy with what I'm making anymore. It doesn't bring me joy to make it. So what do? Well, something like what I've got behind me, where you're changing colors every round or row or whatever, isn't something that you can frog. So what do? You finish it. This was meant to be a much, much larger blanket, and I stopped it early, and I did a couple of rounds of half double crochets, one round of back post or front post half double crochets, and called it finished. It's not finished, but I called it finished so that I could put it away. Done. Yeehaw, I've actually finished something, and that makes you feel better that you've actually finished something. I'll just check my notes. Yeah, so you can call an unfinished project finished. If it was a solid blanket, sort of in the set one color that I made in that pattern, and it was like at the initial diamond shape, and I just had no interest anymore, and I liked the yarn, I might, I've got hair everywhere. It's the cats, I've been cuddling cats. I might frog it, get it out of the way. I usually have a very strict rule that I abide by, that if I have not picked up an item or a project for 6 to 8 weeks, I frog it if I can, if it's all one color, or in that case, in a case like this, I finish it. Okay, I just call it finished, and no matter how big it is or whatever, I just call it finished. So how do you do that with a jumper? Well, simple, and I've done it. I've had a front and a back and one arm. So I unpick the one arm, I reball that up with the front and back, I join them, I do my collar, I do armholes, and now I've got a vest. Done. It's finished. And I think the fact that you can actually finish something that you didn't really want to do or finish, but you can finish it quicker and easier, is just wonderful. It gives you that really, that's out of the way, that's done. Even though you've cheated, it's done, it's out of the way. It gives you a good buzz. Same with frogging. If you haven't touched something for weeks and weeks, and it's been sitting there and it's been looking at you when you're looking at it, and you're thinking, oh, I don't want to do you, frog it. What's the big deal? Frog it. It doesn't matter. It's only you that knows you started it. I mean, and even if you started it and showed it, oh, I've got that hair, and showed it on your channel or sent a picture to somebody, look what I've done. Frog it. It doesn't matter. It's your project. If you don't want to finish it, don't finish it. Okay, that's what I usually do. That's the first thing I do. The 6 to 8 week rule is only broken by me if I'm waiting for new yarn. So for example, if I run out of yarn at the sort of diamond part and I've had to put it away because I'm waiting for some funds to come in, enough funds to get the rest of the yarn or whatever that I need, and that's taking longer than anticipated, I still keep it, because the reason I've not touched it is because I haven't got the yarn. But if I haven't touched something because I just don't want to finish it, or because I've just lost interest, it gets frogged or finished early. And you can all do that. Okay, so at this stage you might be ready to restart, so give it a go. You start small. So I've gotten on my notes, start maybe with a swatch. So if you are planning to make a jumper, this is specifically for wearables, I guess, more than anything else, or I suppose it could be blankets, but it's mostly for wearables, and more so for knitting, I think, than crochet. That's just my personal thing. But do a swatch. If you need to do a gauge swatch, that's a perfect project to start off with, because it gives you a few hints as to whether or not you're going to want to do it. If you do a swatch and you don't like the pattern, then don't you unravel it and you go and you do something else. If you do a swatch and you really enjoy the pattern, it can be just the kickstart you need to get you back to doing your knitting or your crocheting. So do something small. Alternatively, go to an old favorite. I like, if you like making headbands, make headbands. If you like doing washcloths, do a washcloth. If you like baby hats, do baby hats. Baby items are good, small, quick items, so you can finish something quickly, and it gives you that gratification that, oh, I've managed to finish something. It goes back to the previous stage where you're talking about finishing something early. Sometimes the reason we lose our crojo is because we haven't had a success. We haven't had, that rush of, yay, I've finished this, because we might have too many whips, or we might not have had enough time, or whatever the case may be. So to finish something, even if it's small, a coaster or a placemat or a runner for a kitchen table or a pot holder or whatever, sometimes that's just enough to go, oh, great, I've managed to finish something. And it can give you a little bit of joy back in what your craft is. Relearn. Okay, what do I mean here? Well, this is it's not so much relearning or as learning, or relearning a different way to crochet, which means a new stitch, relearning a new pattern, relearning, what have I got in my points? So if you haven't done filet crochet for a while, relearn how to do filet. If you haven't done mosaic for a while, maybe you want to learn how to do mosaic, or you want to learn how to do interlock, or you want to do Tunisian, or you want to know, if you're a knitter, you might want to learn how to do brioche, or fisherman's rib, or anything like that. Doing something with the same craft, but is something that is new to you. You're relearning an additional skill, or learning a different way of doing the same skill in a different format, which will give you different results. And sometimes those different results can be so inspiring and exciting that it's just enough to get that crojo, knitjo back again. So, you can learn those skills or relearn them, because it's all crochet or it's all knitting, but it's just a relearning a different concept with the crochet or the knitting, to relearn a new skill, or to learn a new skill of crochet or knitting. Also, not necessarily actually physically crocheting or knitting, but and this is not relearning, this is actually just learning straight out. Why not learn how to read a graph or a chart? Okay, one says, I can't read them. Now, some people can't read them. Some people don't have the eyesight for it. The line, goes blurry, or, they find it difficult to follow because they're not in different colors, or, whatever the case may be. They've got cataracts, or, they need new glasses or something like that. But if your vision is fine, saying I can't read a graph is just saying, well, to me, it's just saying I haven't learnt yet how to do it. So try and learn how to do that. Once you find that you have learnt something new, like reading a graphgan. I don't know how to do graphgans. Oh, I hate them. And that's me. I hate graphgans. And that's only because I don't like color changing, because I find them so laborious and horrible. Now, if I could, if I lose my mojo and I see a pattern that I really like that happens to be a graphgan, then I might think, okay, I'll try and find a better way to change colors that I haven't looked at before. Or, so I can learn how to read. Oh, I know how to read the graphgan, but I'll learn how to change colors better on a graphgan. The same goes for knitting. I can read knitting charts, but sometimes I find them a little difficult, so I need to relearn or spruce up my skills on that. I know how to read crochet charts, but sometimes they're very complex, and you need to look up symbols to know what you're actually meant to be doing. Now, all the symbols for them should actually be in the charts. And once you've learnt a crochet chart, you've learnt many, many new patterns. Especially there are so many patterns, and I really admire, I think it's like Eastern Europeans in particular, that have such beautiful, beautiful patterns. And I can't follow the pattern because the pattern is in Russian or Ukrainian or Polish or Lithuanian or whatever it might be. It's not in English. So what do you do? But a lot of these have charts. Charts seem to be a very popular thing in Eastern um, uh, Europe and in places like Japan as well. They seem to be quite popular. So if you can read a chart, you can learn patterns from all over the world, and nothing will stop you. So when you see a pattern and you go, oh great, I really love that, I want to do it, and then you go, oh, I can't do it, it's in Japanese. Well, you don't need to do that anymore, because you've given yourself a new skill. So often learning a new skill to broaden your horizons, to broaden your database of what you can do, will give you more options and once again restore your crojo. Reminisce. So I think most of us take photos of our projects, especially the ones that we give away. I do anyway. Maybe you don't. But maybe you see the projects that you have given away because they're worn by someone, who is in your family, or, your mother or aunt has got the blanket you've made thrown over the back of their couch or whatever. Revisit those feelings of joy you had in seeing the joy in the faces of the people that you gave your projects to. Try and reminisce, remember what it was like choosing the colours and trying to decide what was the best pattern for this person, or the best style of jumper or jacket for this person, or, maybe the person picked out this blanket themselves and said, this is a blanket I would like, can you do it in this colour or these colours? I think, it's once again, it's that gives you that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling I've finished feeling, which will once again give you you know, gratification. I think, is probably the best word to use. Give you a feeling of gratification that, yeah, I did that. And I enjoyed doing that. And the person I gave it to enjoyed receiving that. I should do that again. So you can reminisce all you like about that. And that's good. Okay, redirect. What do I mean by redirect? Try something completely different. If after all of these stages or attempts or ideas have not inspired you to want to pick up the hook again, and you're healthy and you're well, and or the pain is doable, or, and you're your usual normal self, and you still haven't got that crojo back, forget it for a while. Just forget it and try something completely different. Get some adult coloring books, do some coloring, do some diamond art if you can see the things. I can't. Get some clay if you love clay, and do some clay work. Do some drawing, with some pencils, and, colored pencils, or just, grey lead. Get some pastels, get some charcoal. I used to love doing charcoal drawings when I was a kid. If you've never knitted but you crochet, do some knitting. Learn to knit. If you're knit but never crocheted, try and learn to crochet. Um, do something completely. What else? Cooking, baking. Just do something, cross stitch, do something completely different to what you are normally doing. But try and keep it inexpensive. You don't want to go buying all the supplies for something and finding you don't like it. One thing you can do with, and I know a lot in cross stitch, a lot of people say cross stitch too small for my eyes. It is too small for my eyes as well. But what I do is I make panels of simple Tunisian crochet, and I cross stitch onto the Tunisian crochet. And because it's a lot bigger, and you can make it as big as you like. If you use a really thick yarn, your squares are going to be really big, and so your cross is going to be really big, or you can make it smaller with an 8-ply or something. So that's, gives you a bit of choice with, playing with, sizes that you can actually see. That's something fun. I've got a stack of books here. Some are cross-stitch books, and I sort of got to the stage where I thought, oh, I should just give them away. But then I realized I can actually do cross-stitch with crochet, with Tunisian. So now I'm keeping them in case, I want to do something like that again. Yeah, anything. Do something different for a while, and forget about the fact that you couldn't pick up the hook again. Because the more you think about the fact that what you couldn't do, the more you're going to want to do it, and you can't, for whatever the reason, whatever the block that is there, is going to keep stopping you. So just ignore it. Just put it aside. Do something different. Write a poem. Write a letter. Write a book. Do something that you love doing that is different to what you would normally want to do. And even if you just put a time limit on it and say, you know what, I'm gonna write to all of my aunts or uncles, or I'm gonna write to all of my nieces and nephews, or whatever. I mean, whatever you choose. I'm gonna write to all these people and just sort of find out how they're going. You could probably send an email, but you know what? Writing a letter is really personal and really nice. Maybe if you're into paper crafts, you might want to make a pretty envelope or a pretty card and write in that. Do something different. And then just wait and see what happens. And that is really all the advice I can think of, or tips or hints that I can think of that might help you get your crojo back. If you can think of any more, I'd love to hear them. Please leave a comment as to what gets your crojo going again, or your knitting desire back again. Often I will actually start multiple knitting and multiple crocheting projects, and I sort of alternate every few hours between them until I find one that, hey, no, I don't want to stop doing this one and going to the next one. And suddenly my crojo's back, or my knitting crojo is back, because I suddenly realize, hey, I'm really enjoying doing this pattern. I don't want to go back to those ones. And make sure you frog the other ones, yeah? So that you haven't got that, looming over you, these unfinished UFOs or whips, or whatever you want to call them. Well, that is everything I've got for you. Only took 3 takes. Let's hope that I can finish it off and that the sound is there this time. Fingers crossed. Everybody, please take care. Enjoy your crafts. And I'm going to say, as usual, bye for now.